All right, welcome everyone. Thank you all for being here in the first open to everyone Yoga for Rowers class. Those of you who don't know me, my name is Laura, and just a brief background about me. I've been a physical therapist for over 25 years. I've been teaching yoga since 2008. I lead a yoga teacher training, so I teach other people how to be yoga teachers, and I have a degree in exercise and sports science. I am not a rower. What I have learned about rowing is from Felix, from YouTube videos, from other people who do row, and the mechanics, the biomechanics of rowing, the muscles that activate when and which parts of the rowing phase, what muscles get overstretched or overworked, what muscles never get stretched, and some common injuries that you can get from repetitive movements like rowing. So, and we started this class at the beginning of the pandemic, and we've been going pretty strong ever since. So a thank you to everyone who's continued to come, and I'm really glad that there's some new people here as well. So the way I teach yoga is very influenced by the physical therapy side of me. So it's first, do no harm. So I start pretty gentle with some movements to open up muscles, joints, get the lubricating fluid moving in the joint capsules and in between our muscle fibers and the fascia. And then we start to add more core strength, glute activation, upper body strength, upper back strength rather. So there might be some poses and movements that work great for you. There might be some that don't work for you. So please modify, adapt anything that I'm offering, substitute, and I'll offer some of those as we go. And if I don't offer what you need, please feel free to take what you need during the practice. So your practice doesn't have to look exactly as mine does. And feel free to rest at any time during the practice, because you might be choosing to use this as more of a recovery movement practice for yourself. So we're gonna, as I said earlier, if you have 2 yoga blocks, grab them. I'm gonna use the blanket mostly for padding my knees. The strap will be primarily for if you have trouble in a quad stretch position, reaching back to find the foot, or maybe even opening the chest. It might be helpful as well. We're gonna start on our backs. And you could come in whatever position feels comfortable for you here on your back, meaning you could have the legs straight or the knees bent, maybe a knock-kneed position or a butterfly position, or maybe even elevate your legs. We're going to start in some stillness. So it's worth taking a moment to get comfortable here. And you might even need a folded blanket or a pillow under your head if you've got some tightness, tension in the neck. And place one hand on your belly and the other on your chest. And you don't have to be smack dab in the middle. Let the elbows come to rest on the floor. The hands are really just to provide some feedback about the breath and the movement that happens in your body with breathing. So in this practice and in all the yoga practices that I lead, I start in stillness so that we can connect to the breath. And a few reasons for this. The breath is really the foundation of this hatha yoga practice. The breath is connected to the movement. The breath supports movement. And the breath is really this bridge, the connector between the mind and the body. And at its heart, yoga is a mindfulness practice, just happens to have movement with it. And for some of us, that's more acceptable to our nervous systems than sitting and meditating. So just shifting your focus to the breath here, beginning to feel the belly and chest expanding on inhale Contracting, meaning passively pulling inward and downward on the exhale. And in yoga, unless we're doing a specific breath exercise, you're breathing in and out through the nose. If you can, I know it's cold and flu season. And the reason for that is that the openings of the nose and nostrils are smaller than your mouth, and this starts to slow your breathing down. And then begin to slow your breathing down a little bit more. So we're going to lengthen both inhale and exhale. It's not big, deep breaths, not big and effortful. We're just slowing it down. This is us setting the pace, the rhythm for the breath for the rest of the practice. This is the breath that we want to keep as we begin to move in a moment. Take the next few breaths and set an intention for your practice today. So, thinking of the reason why you've shown up. Become a better rower, prevent injury, feel better, find some flexibility. Include a mindfulness practice in part of your overall health and well-being. And if none of that speaks to you, perhaps you dedicate your practice to someone else, someone who might need your positive thoughts and energy. So bring this thought, this reason you're here, or this person, to the front of your mind, and breathe with intention. And release the hands away from the torso. And we're going to start by gently pulling the knees in towards you here. So you could hold onto the shins, but if that feels like too much stretch on the back or too much pressure on the knees, hold the backs of the thighs instead, and just start to gently rock side to side. So just the leg position, starting to open up joints and the lumbar spine, the lower back. The gentle rocking giving you a little self-massage to those muscles that run parallel to the spine in the lower and mid back. And this might feel pretty good. You could keep it right here. You don't have to make the movement bigger. But if you'd like to feel a little bit more stretch, knees back through center, bring the arms out to the sides. We'll drop both knees over to one side, and optional, you could stretch the top leg over to the side. And then exhale, bend the knee, roll onto your back. Inhale, drop the knees to the other side. You need a little more space. And optional, stretch that top leg out to the side. So we exhale, roll in the back. We're going to go back and forth. So just dropping the knees. Perhaps you stretch the leg out. Or go back to that gentle knees to chest rocking. So you don't have to make this bigger or make it feel like a stretch. And we'll do one more time to each side. And rolling onto your back here again. We're going to start to work in a little bit of core. So this isn't anything big and fancy or obvious like plank or crunch or side plank. Oblique work, we're going to work the innermost layer of abdominals. So the outer layers are the rectus abdominis, your six pack, the obliques, these ones that run diagonally. Underneath all that are your transverse abdominis muscles, and they wrap all the way around your waist to the back. Their primary job is to stabilize the spine and the hips. So very important for injury prevention, but also in the drive and the finish phases of your stroke. We're going to do a version of dead bug. Now I'm gonna hold my yoga block. If you don't have a yoga block, you're gonna pretend you have a yoga block and it'll work just as well. So I'm gonna bring my feet up. So I have my knees bent, they're over the hips. And I'm gonna reach my hands straight up over my chest. Now, the way we engage that transverse abdominis is by pressing the back ribs into the floor. And at the same time, press the back of the pelvis or the sacrum into the floor, not necessarily the low back. So back ribs pressed into the floor, back of the pelvis pressed into the floor. You should feel the abdominal muscles engaging. That's it. All right, so we're gonna keep that. And first, just lower the arms overhead and not allowing the ribs to flare towards the ceiling. And then exhale, bring the arms back up over the chest. So we'll do that again. Inhale, arms overhead, keep the back ribs pressed to the floor. Exhale, bring it up. Let's do one more like that. So this may already be working. You might be having to concentrate pretty hard to keep the core engaged. But if you're like, Laura, give me more challenge, as you lower the block, tap one foot on the floor, keeping the knee bent. Exhale, bring it back up. Inhale, arms overhead. Maybe you tap the other foot. Exhale, bring it back up. We're going to do a few more. Keep the back ribs, the back of the pelvis pressed into the floor as you move. Are you breathing? If you'd like even more challenge, maybe the leg that's reaching down, you reach out straight. Longer lever arms are requiring a little bit more force of your core to stay stable. I'm going to do one more to each side, then we get a break. All right, pull the knees in and maybe just let's lower the feet to the floor, knees bent. Gently rock the legs side to side, a little windshield wiper motion there. Yeah, so that innermost layer of abdominal muscles, keeping that spine stable, the hips stable in everything you do, but especially in the drive phase of your stroke, so you're not rounding and arching the back so much. Taking your time, we're gonna roll on over here, coming up to hands and knees. We're going to be weight bearing on our knees for the next several poses. So if you're on a hard floor, you may choose to pad the floor here or pad your knees with a folded blanket. Typically, yoga without or cold here, but getting to the point where you're going to want that grip under your feet without the socks on. Here in tabletop, we have the knees under the hips and the wrist under the shoulders. Now, for a lot of people, this 90-degree angle at the wrist or the pressure of the weight bearing through there doesn't feel great. So some options would be you could be on loose fist. That takes the angle out and some of the pressure. You could take the pressure completely off, being on your forearms here on the floor, or if you have yoga blocks, forearms on the blocks. We're going to start to move the spine a little different direction, a little side bending. So I'm going to reach one leg back and cross it over to the opposite side. I'm going to tuck my toes so the foot doesn't slide, and then look around the shoulder to see the foot. So you start to stretch through the side body, and then bring that knee back down underneath its own hip. Then we do the other side. Inhale, cross it over, toes tucked, peek around the shoulder, stretching through the side body. Exhale, the knee back down. And then we're moving side to side, and the pace is your breath. So remember that lengthened breath we started with. So it makes the movement kind of slow motion and allows you to be deliberate and feel what this feels like in your body. Meaning, does this feel like a good stretch? Have I gone too far? Is this painful? Do I need to change my head position or my hand position? We're warming up, so nothing needs to feel intense here. We'll bring both knees back down underneath the hips. And we're gonna come into either child's or puppy pose. So for some people, this is a resting position. We're not gonna be here too long, so if you're not enjoying it, no worries. Child's pose is hips over heels with the forehead rests on the floor, and that works for a lot of us. But if you have osteoporosis, herniated discs, knee or hip issues, or maybe just tight back, puppy pose is a safe alternative, which I'm demonstrating here. So that's hips over knees, forehead resting down. And if the forehead doesn't rest easily, you could stack your hands under the forehead. So letting the head rest here. We'll be here for a few breaths. So remembering you could rest at any time during the practice. This could be a resting pose, but lying on your back or your belly or sitting can all be resting positions. Obvious reasons to rest are if you're tired, but perhaps you've lost your breath and you need to pause and return to it, or return to your intention for the practice. And you could certainly stay here longer. I'm going to do a little sequence of moves right here, starting and ending in this pose. So either child's or puppy pose. Stretch the hands, arms forward. And on the inhale, we're going to lift the head and torso and shift into a knee down plank. Now you're holding plank as you exhale, lower down to the ground. Elbows come by the ribs. We're all the way down on the belly. A low cobra. So we pull the shoulder blades towards the spine and the back waist to lift the head and chest. So upper back strength rather than arm. And then we're pushing up. Now pull the low belly in to push your hips back, head down. Find that child's or puppy pose. I'm going to do that a couple more times. So inhale, lift up and shift forward, knee down plank. Now hold plank. Don't let the back sag as you exhale, lower down to the ground. Shoulder blades back and down, lift the head, chest. That is low cobra. You could press higher, like ribs off the floor if that feels good. No reason to force the spine. Pull the low belly in, hips back, head down. Child's or puppy pose. One more. Inhale, lift up, shift forward. Core is tight. Exhale, lower down. Shoulders back, down, lift head, chest, low cobra, or press higher. Don't force it. Pull that low belly in, bring the hips up, coming back into that hands and knees position. We're going to do a little bit more here for the core. This is also good for shoulder and hip stabilization. We're coming into a bird dog. But listen for the cues, because the prep is really what makes the stabilization part of this the most useful. So, and you could be on your forearms here. Remember, if you don't want that weight, bring on the hands. We're going to firm the belly, make a solid wall of your abdominal muscles, and then lengthen the spine. So even if you can't feel it, imagine reaching the tailbone towards the back wall and the top of the head towards the front wall, the crown of the head. So gaze is down. We're going to reach one leg straight back, toes pointing down. You could stay with just leg or reach the opposite arm forward, thumb up. And then we lower the hand and lower the knee. So we're going to do that on the other side. Your goal is to keep your hips as stable as possible. Inhale, reach the other leg back. Perhaps the opposite arm reaches forward. And then exhale, lower down. Go in slow motion here. Inhale, leg, opposite arm, just alternating sides. Exhale to lower. Inhale, lift, reach, lengthen through hands, feet, and spine. Exhale, lower. So again, working on spine and hip stability with that transverse abdominis and these muscles that run along the length of the spine. And then we're going to lower back down here, pausing in hands and knees. Maybe you shake out your wrists a little bit. I'm going to stretch one foot back, toes tucked under. We're going to do this toe rocking movement. This is really about warming up. Again, not forcing movement. So as you inhale, shift forward, bend through the toe joints. As you exhale, press the heel back. And we're doing that a few times. So inhale, shift forward, toes bend. Exhale, press the heel back. A few more times. Stiffness in that big toe is really common. So you're not forcing that movement if you don't have it. Tightness in the ankle or the Achilles tendon or the calf, also really common. We're just warming up. We're going to lower that knee down, switching sides. So you'll notice the first part of that practice here, there are a lot of repeated movements, kind of oscillating, gentle movements. And the idea is that your joint capsules don't have a circulatory system for the lubricating fluid. Movement is the way it circulates. And that's true for the lubricating fluid that's secreted by the fascia, the connective tissue, in between muscle, skin, nerve, arteries, veins. We're going to lower that knee back down. So this is setting us up for down dog. Down dog can be a challenging pose. So remember some options. One is that puppy pose again. So puppy pose is sort of like a kneeling down dog, hips over knees. The forehead could rest or it could be up. You could have your hands only down or the forearms down here. So that's an option. If you want to try down dog, hands are going to come a little forward of your shoulders. The fingers are spread. Tuck your toes. Reach the hips up and back. Now, if you're tight to the backs of legs, which I definitely am, remember, or maybe you've never heard it before, we're going to prioritize lengthening the spine. So instead of straightening my knees, which rounds my back, I'm going to bend my knees and push the sitting bones up and back. Head relaxed between the upper arms. I'm going to take a moment here and move around a little in my down dog. So I'm going to pedal the feet. I bend one knee, push the other heel towards the floor, and switch. Taking a few more breaths. Creating more movement in the ankles so that you can come into a tighter position in the catch, therefore being able to generate a little bit more force from that position. We're going to pause here in that down dog. So we're going to transition to the left foot coming to the outside of the left hand. Now, it may not get there, so you could lower the knees, left hand helping that foot come forward. So my foot is out wider than my hands. Coming into a lizard pose is what's called in yoga. I'm going to come into upright lizard. So I'm going to use my blocks under my hands. If you don't have blocks, you could be on fingertips or even a hand up on that front thigh. Not forcing it, but if you can, let the hips sink forward and down. Press into the hands to reach the top of the head up towards the ceiling. So I'm lengthening, hips down, but head up. Neck long, so pressing in the hands to keep that neck long. And then just take a few gentle head turns side to side. So I'm not cranking my neck around, I'm just moving in whatever comfortable range of motion I have. And you're probably getting a little bit of a torso rotation with this, which is fine. We're going to bring that head, torso back through center. We're lowering the hands back down to the floor and stepping it back into a down dog. So you might the whole practice, you might have that bend in your knees in the down dog, sitting bones reaching up and back. Relax that head, maybe shake it out. Right foot coming to the outside of the right hand. It might need some help to get there, no worries, we're not in a rush. Lowering the back knee. So hands, shoulders on the inside of that front foot. Again, using the blocks here, coming up on fingertips or forearms on that front thigh. Lengthen the tailbone down, maybe drop the hips down and forward. At the same time, you reach the top of the head up towards the ceiling. So neck is long. And just that gentle side to side head turn. Bring that head back in through center. Toe heel that right foot so it's centered on your mat again. We're lifting the back knee and we're stepping the back foot to the front foot. Might be one big step or a few little hops to get there. So we're gonna bend the knees a little bit and maybe even bring the hands to the thighs, look forward. Strong legs, we're gonna rise up to stand. Once you're up, take a couple of backward shoulder rolls, starting to open up the chest and engage those muscles around the shoulder blades. All right, I'm gonna move that blanket out of the way so it doesn't trip me later. And we are gonna do the top part of a sun salutation. So we don't have to go back through the down dog or do the plank. We're gonna just work on the top part of the sun salutation so we can begin to practice that connection of breath and movement a little bit more. So you'll start with your feet hip distance or a little wider if that stability feels good. And on the inhale, get tall and reach your arms up. On the exhale, you're gonna sit back, bring the hands to the knees. So I'm gonna turn just so you can see my profile here. On your inhale, press into the hands and lengthen the spine. Staying on the exhale, shoulders away from the ears. Looking forward, strong legs. Inhale, rise back up to stand, reaching up. And then exhale, hands to prayer at the center of your chest. Let this go, shake out your wrist. I'm gonna do this a couple more times. So inhale, get taller, reach out, up, spread your fingers. Exhale, sit back, hands to the knees or the thighs. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, shoulders away from the ears. Strong legs. Inhale, rise up, reach up. Exhale, hands to prayer. Let that go. I'm gonna do it one more time. You could think about this as being a warm-up. Could be before rowing or exercise, or even a break from computer or work. Again, inhale, get tall, reach up, because you don't have to be barefoot or on your yoga mat. Exhale, sit back. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, shoulders away from the ears. Strong legs. Inhale, rise up, reach up. And exhale, hands to prayer. Let this go. Shake it out. All right. Coming up to your yoga mat, the front of your yoga mat or the space that you're practicing in. And we're going to do a few standing poses here. We'll continue to work on engaging the core, which helps to stabilize hips and spine. So we're going to take a medium to big step back here with this left foot. I'm coming into what's called a warrior one. So my hips are and my heels are sitting bone distance apart, which roughly line up to where my hip joints are. The back foot, that left foot is flat, turning out to about 10 o'clock-ish, front knee bent. And it's either directly over the knee or forward or behind it, but in line with it there. So often we get like a big banana arch in the low back, especially if our hip flexors are tight. So try lengthening the tailbone down towards the earth. This starts to level the pelvis, and you're gonna feel a little bit of the transverse abdominis working. At the same time the tailbone goes down, top of the head, crown of the head is reaching up. So there's a lot of work and concentration happening here. You could keep your hands at the hips or let them float up. So palms face each other, hands shoulder distance apart, and then see if you can release tension in the muscles that run between the neck and shoulders. And sometimes they're hard to turn off. If you have your hands more in a V or cactus position, sometimes that external rotation of the shoulders allows the upper trapezius muscles to let go. Breathing. You might be feeling a little hip flexor stretch in the front of that left hip and thigh if that tailbone continues to lengthen down. On the exhale, we're going to bring our hands down. So a couple of options. One would be to interlace the fingers behind you. And if you just don't have that range of motion, your shoulders don't like it, you could hold your shirt tail here instead, hands more shoulder distance apart, or that strap. Whatever you have a hold of, roll the shoulders back and down to start to open the chest. Reach the knuckles towards the floor. And if you're like, great, nice open chest and shoulders, but the head sort of jutted forward, tuck the chin slightly back of the head coming back, and then tip the chin up. Breathe. Often those shoulders can roll forward with just daily activities, but especially coming into that catch position, that reaching forward. So counteracting that, releasing the hands here, and we're gonna step forward. Shake out the legs, roll the shoulders, see if you can feel the difference between the left and right legs. They're definitely doing different things there. We're gonna do that sequence on the other side. So it'll be that medium to big step back with the right foot. You've got that sitting bone distance space between your heels, right foot flat and turned out to 2 o'clockish, front knee bent. Tailbone towards the earth. Maybe you begin to feel a little hip flexor stretch on that right side, top of the head towards the sky. Hands could stay down. You could focus on that lengthening, that decompression of the spine here, or arms float up, palms face each other. See if you can release the tension muscles between the neck and shoulders. Maybe hands wider for that. So often those muscles there, upper trapezius muscles between neck and shoulders, call them the busybody muscles. So often they jump in and engage when they're not needed, and they start to hold tension. And that can definitely be true in the stroke. They're really not needed for, I don't think, any part of the stroke of rowing, but they tend to tense up there. On your exhale, we're going to release the hands down. Maybe you interlace fingers, hold the shirt tail, or find that strap. Roll the shoulders back and down, lift the chest. Maybe bring the back of the head back a little bit, tip the chin up slightly, knuckles towards the floor. Taking a few breaths in that open chest warrior one. Release the hands and step it forward. Shake out your legs, roll those shoulders. All right, we're going to work a little bit on balance. And this is definitely a typical part of a yoga class. But for rowers, you're balancing all the time. Hips and stability in the boat to keep it from minimizing the rocking side to side, turning to look behind you, to line up where you're going. You're having to twist, but keep the hips stable. So we're going to be working on standing on one leg. I'm going to use my yoga block again, but if you don't have it, you're pretending you have it for this one. This is going to involve a little bit of core work as well. So we're going to bring one foot forward, spread those toes out, place the toes down in that spread out position. That activates muscles in the arch of the foot to help, they can react to loss of balance and widens the base of support. Shift your weight onto that foot. We're going to bring the other foot out and back, toes down. Now, again, setting it up. We're going to lengthen that spine again, tailbone down, top of the head up. Now, focus your gaze on a non-moving spot straight ahead. The visual feedback, really important in balance. You could do this without the arms, but I'm going to hold the block and bring it up and over the opposite shoulder. Well, it's the same side of the leg I'm standing on, opposite of the leg that's out. You could stay right here, toes down. You could lift those back toes up, knowing you can always put the back toes down quickly. If you'd like to add some challenge with movement, you're going to exhale, bring the block down, the knee forward, belly button towards the spine. There's a tiny little abdominal crunch. The gaze stays forward. And we inhale, stretch out along that diagonal. So we exhale, block to knee, belly button towards spine. Inhale, reach out. Maybe the toes touch down for a little home base. Exhale, pull it in. Inhale to that diagonal. One more. All right, let that go. Shake it out. Feel how hard that standing leg was having to work. Maybe shin, calf, you felt it, outer hip. Maybe the core was feeling that. We're going to do that again. Other side, other foot forward, lift the toes, spread them out, lay them down, spread out. Shift your weight onto that foot. Other foot is out and back, toes down. And then that arms or the block up and over the side of the standing leg. Focus gaze, find that spot. In yoga, this is called drishti. In physical therapy, it's called gaze focused. That lengthened spine, that stacks joints over joints, which is going to help architecturally with the balance. Staying with the back toes down, or maybe you lift them up. You could stay with this, or exhale, block to knee, belly button a little towards spine, a little abdominal crunch. Inhale, reach it out long. Exhale, pull it in. Inhale long. This is slow motion, right? So giving us plenty of time to actually engage the muscles in the body that we're moving with real intention. All right, we'll let the foot down, arms down, shake out those legs, roll the shoulders. We're done with that block here for a while. And then coming up here to the front of the mat. Inhale, get taller. Maybe you reach up. On your exhale, find a forward fold. So we initially did kind of sitting back, hands on the thighs, or you could do forearms on the thighs here. This is where I'm going to stay because I'm actually nursing some lower back issues. But you could come into a ragdoll position, and this is where the hands reach toward the floor, top of the head releases towards the floor. You have at least a little bend in the knees, maybe generous bend. Do a little forward, backward sway or side to side. Maybe you shake that head out if you're in that ragdoll, or gently twist it side to side like we did in that lizard lunge pose. Bend the knees enough to bring the hands to the floor. Maybe those yoga blocks are there to greet you. We're going to step one foot back and lower that knee. Step the other foot back and lower the knee. We're going to come into that child's or puppy pose and take a rest. So child's pose, hips over heels. Puppy pose, hips over knees. Let the forehead come down to rest on the floor, stacked hands or fist or yoga block. Or any other resting position that works for you. Let's take a moment to come back to the breath. Going back to that lengthened breath we started with, so reminding ourselves to slow down. Connect to that breath again. And then recalling your intention for the practice, this reason you've shown up today. Why did you carve this hour of time out to be here? In a moment, I'm getting ready to move on, but I'd like you to stay for as long as it takes to come back to that lengthened breath, or longer if you're needing that rest. If you're ready to move on, coming back up here to hands and knees, I'm actually going to do what's called a kneeling squat. So I'll be standing on my knees. So you might want that extra padding, a blanket. I'm folding mine up one more time underneath my knees. So I'm standing here on my knees. So it's a kneeling squat, meaning in a moment, I'm going to hinge my hips back and shoulders forward a little bit. When I come back up, I'm going to work on squeezing my glutes, my buttocks to affect the movement, so that you kind of start to consciously engage those muscles. So we're starting here in that same lengthened spine. So the tailbone down, the top of the head up, the shoulders are relaxed. You're in charge of how big this movement is, so you don't have to make it big. We're going to inhale, hinge forward. So my hips go back. My chest and gaze stay forward a little bit. And then to come up, think squeeze the buttocks to push the hips forward and rise up. Relax those glutes. Inhale, sitting back, spine staying long. Exhale, squeeze the buttocks and rise up. We're going to do a few more here. If you're like, I can't tell if I'm squeezing the glutes, you might even put your hands back there on your butt cheeks and see if you can feel the muscles tensing underneath your hands. Sometimes it's hard to know if they're actually doing that work. And the reason we're emphasizing this here is that in the drive phase of the stroke, once you get a little bit past the catch into the drive, the quads initiate pushing away, but you want the glutes to activate so that when you start to lean back towards the finish, they are helping you move. And if you're not using them, you end up using more low back muscles, and that can lead to injury. I like the kneeling squat because it kind of takes the quads out of it and makes you use your glutes. All right, coming back up. We're going to pause here, and then we're going to make our way onto our side. So coming into side lying, moving into a quad stretch. Now, if you have tight quads, you might want that strap. Starting here in fetal pose and support the head. So I'm just using my arm, but you could slide a pillow, that folded blanket, or the yoga block underneath. No reason to strain the neck. We're going to be stretching the top quad. So we're going to bring that leg back, reach back with that top hand to find the foot or the ankle. If it's hard for you to get it, or it's uncomfortable, or you cramp in the hamstring, then you're going to lasso that strap around the ankle, pulling it in, heel towards the butt. Doesn't have to touch, most likely won't. Once you're here, think about lengthening the kneecap towards the foot of the mat. So if that knee is up or forward, you're really only getting like 2 or 3 of the 4 quadriceps stretch. If you lengthen that kneecap away from the head, you're going to start to feel that stretch up to the top of the hip and thigh, to some of your hip flexors. You have 5 hip flexors on each hip. Your longest quadriceps is one of them. So that longest quadriceps actually crosses over the knee and the hip joint. And stretching here. We're going to release this and roll onto the other side to do the same thing. So be sure to support the head. You might need to lift it to get the foot, but let that head come back down. Heel towards the butt, either with the hand or the strap. And then just glance at that knee. Is it up? Is it forward? Think about, it may not get there, but think about lengthening that kneecap towards the foot of the mat, and you're going to feel more stretch at the top of the thigh. Breathe. So as I was saying before, your quads are probably pretty darn strong and probably tight too. Because you're doing so much work at the initial part of the drive phase and probably through most of it with the quads. Good to stretch the quads on the daily, at least once a day, to prevent knee, hip, back injury. We're going to let that foot go and then roll onto your belly. So first we're going to do a little leg lift. And I do mean little, meaning we're not going to lift the leg very high from here, especially if you have tight hip flexors, which I definitely do. And we want to be protective of the back. So this is, again, about engaging the glutes, glute maximus, buttocks muscle, and the hamstrings, back of the thighs. If you'd like to watch me on the first 1 or 2 and join in, you can. I'm going to stack my hands under the forehead so my head can rest and my neck is in neutral. But I can raise my leg pretty darn high here if I don't engage my core. That gives me a lot of low back work. So if I want to isolate back of the hip and thigh, I'm going to lengthen my tailbone towards the feet. You'll feel the pubic bone press into the floor here. Keep that. Inhale, lift one leg from the hip. You will not be able to raise very high. And exhale, lower. Keep the tailbone lengthening towards the foot of the mat. Inhale, lift the other leg from the hip. And exhale, lower. And we're alternating sides. Inhale to lift. Exhaling to lower. Don't be surprised when you can't raise very high. And if you tend to cramp in the hamstring or calf, don't pause. Keep moving. That pause and hold is sort of recipe for cramping. Again, just feeling the back of the thigh engaging. We do use the quads way more than you use your hamstrings in all phases of the rowing stroke. So if you quads get really strong, but the hamstrings don't, you can create this imbalance that again can cause knee problems, hip problems, back problems. All right, lower both legs back down. Might feel good to bend the knees, rock the legs side to side, windshield wipers. Again, thinking about the back of the body. With rowing, upper back strength probably pretty strong, but sometimes those bigger muscles like the lats can get strong. The smaller muscles that support the shoulders and move the shoulder blades, if we don't kind of detail and do the subtle work there, they can get weak and cause shoulder issues and rotator cuff issues. We're going to come into that low cobra we did towards the beginning. So have the hands under the shoulders, elbows point towards the feet, and be real intentional with this part. Pull the shoulder blades towards the spine. So you're squeezing them towards each other. Now pull the shoulder blades towards the back waist. And it's like the shoulder blade strength is going to peel the head and chest up off the floor. I'm pushing very little with my hands, and then exhale lower. So I'm going to do some reps of that. So shoulder blades towards spine, towards the back waist, lift the head and chest. The gaze is down and forward instead of forward, so not hyperextending. Exhale, lower. Shoulders back, down, inhale, lift head, chest. Exhale, lower. All right, pause here. Maybe that windshield wiper or just a little wiggle of the hips. You could do that same thing for a few more reps. I'm going to change my arm position. That's going to change some of the muscles I work around my shoulder blades and my rotator cuff, and also allow a little more upper back muscles to work. So I'm going to bring my hands out to the sides. My elbows are bent and point up towards the ceiling. My hands are about shoulder level, and I'm up on tented fingers because I don't want to make this a push-up. I don't want this to be about the chest and shoulders. This is upper back and shoulder blades. So again, pull the shoulder blades towards spine, back waist, lift the head and chest. Very little pushing with the hands. Exhale, lower. I'm going to do 3 more. Shoulders back and down. Inhale, lift, head, chest, neck long. Exhale, lower. You maybe even think about tailbone lengthening towards the foot of the mat. And lower down and rest. You could bring your hands forward, wiggle the hips a little bit, or bend the knees for those windshield wipers. Lowering the feet back down to the floor. Taking your time, we're going to roll onto our backs. We've been working the glutes, those outer hip muscles, especially with that single leg standing pose. Let's give them a gentle stretch. So start here with the knees bent. You're going to cross one ankle over the other knee. Pause. This might be enough stretch for you. If you're tight, you could stay right here. Or pull the legs in towards you. Reach between the legs to hold the back of the thigh. And if your range of motion, your stretch is somewhere in between those two positions, this is a great place for the strap. You put it behind that leg and use it to pull inward. So what we're looking for here is sensation of stretch in the buttocks, outer hip of that crossed over leg. Not looking for pain or even bordering on pain. Mild to moderate sensation of stretch is actually way more effective than intense, aggressive, or painful stretch. When you stretch to the point of discomfort or pain, there's actually protective mechanisms in your body. They're actually reflexive from the spine, so it's hard to override them. When you stretch to the point of pain, your muscles actually tense up to prevent you from tearing muscle fibers. So they protect you from yourself. All right, we're going to release this and switch to the other side. So we're getting, and it might be different on this side, typically one side tighter than the other. So we're getting into those glutes. So we've worked them a few times here. Some of the rotator muscles, piriformis is that main one in there, and maybe you've heard of it. If you have, it's probably because you've had issues with it. Outer hip muscles here a little bit. If you're really tight, sometimes the hamstring, inner hamstring here, inner thigh will feel it as well. Mild to moderate sensation of stretch. Keep the breath, maybe even returning to that slow down, lengthened breath we started with. You're going to release this, bringing the feet down to the floor, coming into a gentle reclined twist. And you may want your block or pillow or towel here. So we're going to pull the knees in towards us, arms out, drop the legs over to one side. Now, if you got here and you're like, ooh, that's a lot on my back or my hips or knees don't like this, some options are to put prop under the knees or in between the knees. And you don't have to keep the knees in tight. They could kind of slide away from you a little bit. Bring the gaze towards the ceiling or head turn in the opposite direction. What can you let go of here? Meaning maybe take a body scan and see where you're holding on to tension. And can you let some of it go? When you're ready, pull the knees in, roll onto your back, maybe gently hug the knees in or rock a little bit. And then we'll drop the knees over to the other side. Remember your options with the props, gaze up or head turned away from the legs. Check in again. Is there any place that you're clenching or holding? You might be able to let some of it go. Could be the back or the hips. Maybe you clenching your jaw. Feel that breath here. Belly is twisted, so it might feel a little different. The breathing muscle attachments are in a little bit of a stretch position, including the diaphragm and muscles between the ribs. When you're ready, coming on to your back here, we're getting ready for Shavasana relaxation pose. So if there's something you'd like to do here before we do that, feel free. It could be a happy baby, knees out wide, backs of thighs holding your ankles or feet. Maybe there's a different hip stretch or an inversion you'd like to put in your practice. Feel free to add it. And then thinking about how you'd like to set yourself up for Shavasana. I think, again, for most of us, this might feel nice to put socks or sweater on, maybe find a blanket to cover up with. And then finding a place where you can rest easily, meaning it could be on your back, but it could be you're on your side in a fetal pose or on your belly. You could have your legs elevated up on a chair, which releases tension in the hip flexors, your legs up the wall. Butterfly position, the legs, knock kneed position. I'm going to take my folded blanket here and put it across my low belly. It's going to add just a little bit of weight. This does a couple things for me. Well, maybe really three now, a little bit of warmth there. But the weight of it allowing me to feel that connection to the earth from the back of my hips. That little bit of weight in my low belly, stimulating the vagus nerve. This is actually a cranial nerve that runs from the brainstem down through the throat, chest, belly to the pelvic floor. That little bit of pressure stimulating the vagus nerve, which can help activate the rest, digest, heal part of your nervous system. Which is where we're going with this. This is the rest part of yoga, meaning we're not moving, we're not stretching, we're not activating muscles. We're just here being in the moment, resting. And it may feel like, well, this is not worth my time because I'm not doing any of those things. I'm not crossing off any task or accomplishing something here while I rest. But remember that rest is literally when your body heals and recovers. Rest is when the anabolic, the building up, the healing, the recovery functions in your body actually ramp up. So if you're healing from injury, if you're even just digesting any new information today or even over the last hour, this is the time when your nervous system starts to incorporate that. Rest is when you seal the good stuff in. So give yourself the next few minutes to rest. So I'm assuming you're up right away. So remember, you could stay here longer, resting more. But if you're ready to move on, start to deepen the breath. Add some gentle movements like wiggling the fingers, the toes, maybe circling the wrists and ankles. If you're on your back, you could stretch the legs out, maybe the arms overhead, and inhale, lengthen through the body. Exhale, let it go. If you're on your back, bend the knees and roll to your side. Pause for a moment in that fetal position. Taking this opportunity to appreciate your body, your breath, your health, your yoga practice, whether it's familiar or new. Being gentle, press up to a seated position. Thank you all for being here this evening, sharing your practice, your energy. Welcome to everyone, newcomers and people who have been coming. Appreciate you. The light in me honors the light in each of you. Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and I can stay. Any feedback or questions.